People ask, why are you against this? Logic, Webster's 1828 simply means the art of thinking and reasoning correctly and justly. The only way to correctly reason and think is by three things: facts, reality, and probability. Logic is the primary approach to life, the world, and God. To approach these three with logic is to accept or see things as they are, not going by feelings, fantasies, and fairy tales. People ask questions like, why are you against LGBTQ? Why are you against abortion? Why are you against democracy? Why are you against this or that? In order to answer this correctly, you have to answer it logically. Not by a feeling, hypothesis, preference, opinion, theory, etc. And in order to answer a question like that logically, you have to lay down the foundation of absolutes and objective truth. We can factually and scientifically demonstrate objective absolutes. Like, for example, 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't matter what the temperature is, season, what society says, what the individual thinks, it will always be 2. However, can there be absolute objectivity in morality? Most people say no in today's world. There are three options of measuring and observing morality. 1. Individual. This is based on the belief that everybody is a god of their own universe, and they say what goes and they make their own rules. This cannot be objectively true because every individual is going to think differently in one form or another. 2. Society. Based on the belief that every society, government, religious circle, cult, etc., has the right by majority of agreement to set their own rules for their country, circle, or gathering of people. This cannot be objective because every society is going to think differently. For example, America believes in democracy, which is freedom to live however you like by your own choosing. A monarchy dictatorship would be the opposite of dictating how everybody ought to live by a centralized single ruler. 3. God or a supreme being as creator of the universe. This is by the belief that one being created everything and he makes the rules and gives the laws of how everything operates. This can be objective because it comes from an outside source that does not originate from us. This being operates by himself and is sinless because you cannot have a sinful being be the creator of the universe and claim to be God. If it's an outside source from the creator, then he can in fact dictate rules of right and wrong. If morality begins and ends with the individual or society, then you will never be able to tell whether or not you are making progress. This is because opinions change, feelings change, preferences change, society moral ethics change, etc. 60 years ago, according to history, people probably would have thought that there was no way the government would ever legalize sodomite relationships. Now they have. 100 years ago, people would never have believed from history that our government would legalize killing a human being in the womb. Now they have. And on it goes. Therefore, you cannot determine and conclude whether or not sodomite marriage is good or bad based on the individual or society. This is because many people will have different opinions and views. Rather, you have to look at things the way God sees things. Here are the biblical and logical reasons why sodomite relationships are objectively evil and wrong. 1. In the beginning, Scripture is very clear, and even Jesus attested to this, that God made male and female. In the beginning it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Nor was it Ada and Eve. 2. God told Adam and Eve to procreate and replenish the earth. Can two women or two men procreate naturally? No. Therefore, it's an unnatural relationship, because nature and natural basically mean going according to the realistic course of things. It's not in the natural course of things for two males or two females to get together in a relationship, because that's not what God ordained. If he was okay with that, he would not have made male and female in the beginning and told them to procreate. 3. Since God is the creator of the heavens and the earth, he has the right to make the rules. If God would have said that same-sex relationships was okay, he would have said so. However, in many passages in Scripture, KJV text, he is staunchly against it and hates it. He has the right to create and exterminate those who will not obey him. Remember, determining something as objectively right or wrong has to come from outside of us, and it has to come from a supreme being. The Bible is the only book that thoroughly and in deep detail describes and explains God and His mind. The Bible is God's mind and heart open to us. Not even the Quran explains Allah in much depth. The Quran is basically a book of commands and responses, with some history on the side. 4. It will confuse and damage a child's understanding of the natural world. A child needs both a mother and a father. Why? Because the mother shows the child how to emotionally apply their personality and how to apply the more cautious, softer approach when necessary. A father figure teaches the son to be tough and strong, to take pain emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. He teaches the kid to be stern and direct. The child needs both parents in his life to properly be equipped to take on life and react to it properly. A man trying to be effeminate cannot be a proper mother figure, and a woman pretending to be a man cannot be a father figure either. When a child cries out in fear from a nightmare, being alone, or facing a frightening experience, "I want my daddy." Well, that's not possible if he has two mothers. The opposite is true if he gets hurt in some way and cries out, "I want my mommy." Well, that's not possible if he has two males as parents. What is he supposed to say? "I want my pretending mother," or "I want my pretending father"? A mother cannot raise a son to be a man, nor can a man probably raise a daughter to be a woman. These are the main 4 reasons why I'm against the movement. They are logical, consistent, and it comes from outside of us, from a supreme being. God makes the rules because He is the boss. However, let me turn the tables of this document and ask you who are for the movement. You believe it is okay to be a sodomite. Based on what? What you say, society says, what the government says, what the United States says. What is your basis of standard to determine whether something is right or wrong? I guarantee, you don't have an answer. If you say, "Well, I just believe in a God that would not be against such relationships." Okay, then my next question is, what evidence do you have that this God of yours even exists? Is there a book somewhere, or a document where we can read about this God you believe in? It's amazing when you ask people, "Which God do you believe in?" Most of the time they will subscribe to the God of the Bible. But then they say they don't believe the Bible is accurate. Then you don't really believe the God of the Bible, because the Bible is the only book that thoroughly and in depth explains who this God is, what He expects, and salvation that comes from Him. For someone to truly believe in someone, they would have to accept information provided of their identity, what they said, and what they believe and do. Just like for people to claim they believe in Jesus, but then they don't believe what He said and taught applies to them. Then they really don't believe in Him, and they believe in a totally different version of Jesus that's not in the Bible. Another example is if a child said, "I believe in my mother," but they don't obey her, honor her, or respect her. Does that child actually believe in his mother? No, because he believes in a different version of a mother that is completely the opposite of what his biological mother expects from him. These are some objections from people who support the sodomite movement. 1. I believe we have the right to marry and or love whoever we choose. Rebuttal. Where does this right come from? If you say God, then which God are you referring to? You can't refer to Jehovah God of the Bible because He's against that lifestyle. That tells me you are believing in a totally different God. So direct me to a book or document or information that can tell me about this God, because I want to know about Him. They never answer you because they don't even know themselves. So they will rather believe in a fantasy God that has no proof of evidence with information rather than the God that provided a book that not only is the bestseller, but also most distributed, most influential, most believed on, and has never been disproven. Another question I have is, are there limits to this love that you profess to be free to exercise? Would you also be in favor of bestiality and incest? Or suppose somebody is crazy enough to want to marry an object, a place, or a thing. Would you be in favor of that? If so, that tells all of us you have really lost your mind and you belong in the nut house. Lastly, under this point, if you say this right comes from the government, that basically means whatever the government says and allows, that makes it okay. Now you have a bigger problem. Now you are setting up and exalting the government as the final authority of right and wrong. Therefore, for example, if the government decides to legalize the purge, does that make murder okay because the government legalized it? No. Or if the government decided, like the rules around the purge, that because men have such sexual urges they can rape anybody they want to for one night only out of the year. And a woman is at home and multiple men gather around her home to rape her because the government said they could. Does that make rape okay? No. 2. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want regardless. Rebuttal. This is the main reason they believe in the movement. They shake their fist at God, give him the middle finger, and say, "Screw you and your law too. I am not going to do what you say, I am not going to obey you, I don't care if you put me in hell for it. I'm going to do whatever I want. And if I go to hell, then I go to hell because I would rather burn in fire than to ever bow down to you." It is so illogical and stupid to not care about the eternal negative consequence and only enjoy sin for a temporary time. Why would you rather enjoy a temporary pleasure and be willing to be damned eternally? That makes no sense. That would be like somebody saying, "I want to buy this very expensive item now, even though I'm going to be in debt and have to work it off for the next 80 years with it requiring at least 80% of my paycheck." Why would you do that? Or somebody who buys a very expensive house that's going to put them in the negative by $20 million. Or somebody not caring about any crime they commit, even though they know they will be put on death row and be executed for it? Then what was the point of doing it? 3. I believe in a God that would not judge anybody. Rebuttal. Now you have a bigger problem, because if you believe in a God that does not judge anybody, then how is he or she going to correct the evil that's in this world? If they don't judge anybody or hate anybody, then there's no way they can correct any wrongdoing or even recognize it. Again, you can't refer to Jehovah God of the Bible because he's against that lifestyle. That tells me you are believing in a totally different God. So direct me to a book or document or information that can tell me about this God, because I want to know about him. They never answer you because they don't even know themselves. So they would rather believe in a fantasy God that has no proof of evidence with information, rather than the God that provided a book that not only is the bestseller, but also most distributed, most influential, most believed on, and has never been disproven. 4. Jesus never talked about it. Rebuttal. He openly taught that God made male and female in the beginning. Just making that statement alone, case closed, end of discussion. He also did not say anything about rape. Does that make rape okay because he didn't openly talk about it? No. Besides, Old Testament and many New Testament scriptures are openly against it. Jesus is God in the flesh, so he doesn't have to repeat everything he already mentioned and commanded. 5. Even the animal kingdom engages in homosexual acts. Rebuttal. Now you're going to bring the animal kingdom into this? That's sick thinking. Because there are animals that eat their young. So are you going to start eating your children too if you get hungry or if they disobey? Are you going to start committing cannibalism? I pray not. Now you're cherry-picking. Cherry-picking suppressing evidence, or the fallacy of incomplete evidence, is the act of pointing to individual cases or data that seem to confirm a particular position while ignoring a significant portion of related and similar cases or data that may contradict that position. People can be born gay, so that makes it okay. Rebuttal. There is no science that will back that up with facts and evidence. There is no such thing as a gay gene. Doctors will make things up because they are politically pressured. I've even talked to homosexuals who agreed that being a homosexual is a choice of lifestyle, not something you're born with. If you're going to be consistent with that, then there are scientists that are concluding that serial killers like Ted Bundy was born to kill. So does that make murder okay because he may have been born that way? No. There is no murder gene. Conclusion: there are no facts and evidence to stand on to prove that the movement is okay and logically and morally acceptable. The only stance they have is rebellion. It's the attitude of they don't care that God is the creator, they don't care what his word says, they don't care about the rules he makes. They will do whatever they want to do. And whatever consequence comes with it, it is what it is. They do not want God telling them what to do. Which is a hypocritical attitude because they have bosses all over the earth that tell them what to do every day. They don't have the same attitude with them. So it's hypocritical for them to be okay with having authorities over them telling them what to do here, but not want to obey God as the supreme creator.